Ex-black officer had enough of Karen trespassing his pool, so he makes her regret it. Marcus Bennett, a retired police officer, had finally found peace in his quiet suburban home. After 20 years of service in the force, he wanted nothing more than to enjoy his golden years in tranquility, spending his time tending to his garden, reading novels, and swimming in his pristine backyard pool. But lately, that peace had been shattered. It started a few months ago when Marcus noticed his backyard gate swinging open. At first, he assumed it was the wind or perhaps an animal. But then he found wet footprints on the pool deck. Suspicious, he checked his security cameras. To his shock, a blonde woman, whom he instantly recognized as Karen Thompson, his nosy next-door neighbor, was using his pool as if it were her personal resort. At first, Marcus decided to be civil. The next morning, he approached Karen, who was lounging on her porch with her usual smug expression. "Karen, I need to talk to you about something," he said, arms crossed. "Oh, hi, Marcus," she chirped, pretending to be innocent. "What's up?" "You've been using my pool without permission," he said, watching her closely for a reaction. "I saw you on my security footage." Karen let out a fake laugh. "Oh, that? It's just water, Marcus. It's not like I'm stealing anything." Marcus clenched his jaw. "It's trespassing, Karen. That's my property." "Relax," she scoffed. "I thought we were neighbors. Sharing is caring, right?" Marcus sighed. "I'm asking you nicely. Don't do it again." Karen simply waved him off, and Marcus walked away, hoping that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. A few days later, Marcus checked his cameras again, and there she was, lounging on a pool float, sipping a drink like she owned the place. This time, she had even invited a couple of her friends over. That was the last straw. Marcus decided it was time to teach her a lesson she wouldn't forget. The plan, instead of confronting her immediately, Marcus got creative. He went to the local store and bought a special, harmless, yet humiliating ingredient, water-soluble, skin-safe dye. It was completely invisible in the water, but would turn bright green when it made contact with skin. The next time Karen trespassed, she would regret it. The trap is set 2 days later. Marcus set up his camera feed on his laptop and waited. Sure enough, Karen, dressed in her expensive bikini, strutted into his backyard like she belonged there. She checked her surroundings and, seeing no sign of Marcus, grinned before slipping into the pool. Within moments, the magic happened. Karen's entire body turned bright, neon green. She let out a blood-curdling scream. What the hell is happening? Her friends, standing at the edge of the pool, gasped in horror. Marcus stepped outside with a smirk. "Oh, Karen," he said, feigning concern. "You seem to have a little condition." Karen scrambled out of the pool, dripping green water all over the deck. "What did you do to me?" "Oh, nothing much," Marcus said, crossing his arms. "Just a little something to keep trespassers from using my property." Karen, now glowing like a radioactive alien, frantically wiped at her skin, but the dye wouldn't come off easily. It would take hours of scrubbing with special soap. Her friends tried not to laugh, but one snorted, making Karen glare. "You humiliated me," she screeched. "No," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. "You humiliated yourself by disrespecting my property. Now, if you don't want this to happen again, I suggest you stay off my land." Karen stormed off, her green-stained skin glowing in the sunlight. The aftermath after that day, Karen never dared to trespass again. In fact, she avoided Marcus altogether, too embarrassed to even look at him. The neighbors, who had long found her entitled behavior unbearable, praised Marcus for putting her in her place. And as for Marcus, he went back to enjoying his peaceful retirement, knowing that sometimes the best justice is served with a little creativity. For a few weeks, Marcus enjoyed his well-earned victory. No more uninvited guests, no more stolen pool time. Every now and then, he would see Karen peeking through her curtains, clearly still bitter about her neon green humiliation. He figured she had learned her lesson. But Karen wasn't the type to let things go. One evening, as Marcus was grilling steaks on his patio, his friend and former police partner, Greg, dropped by. "Hey man," Greg said, taking a seat. "Heard what you did to your neighbor." "Classic." Marcus chuckled. "Had to teach her a lesson." "Yeah, well, I think she might be planning something." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Just some gossip from the neighbors. She's been talking about getting even." Marcus sighed. He had hoped Karen would take her loss and move on, but it looked like she had other ideas. The retaliation the next morning, Marcus woke up to an unexpected sight. His backyard gate was wide open, and his pool was filled with what looked like soap bubbles. His jaw tightened as he stepped closer. A thick layer of white foam floated on top of the water, and there was an empty bottle of extra-strength bubble bath lying near the edge of the pool. Karen. Marcus pulled out his phone and checked his security footage. There she was, creeping into his yard in the middle of the night, pouring the entire contents of the bottle into the pool, giggling to herself before sneaking back out. Marcus exhaled slowly. This woman had some nerve. But if Karen thought she could outsmart a former cop, she had another thing coming. To counterattack, Marcus spent the afternoon cleaning the pool. He knew Karen expected him to lose his cool, maybe even call the police. But he had a better idea. He called in a favor from a buddy who owned a local pest control service. Together, they set up a harmless but incredibly annoying prank, one that would make Karen regret ever messing with him. That night, Marcus snuck into Karen's yard and carefully placed a dozen plastic snakes and a hidden Bluetooth speaker under her porch. At 2 a.m., the speaker activated, playing realistic snake hissing sounds at full volume. The effect was immediate. Karen's screams shattered the silence of the night. Lights flickered on in the neighboring houses as she bolted outside in her pajamas, flailing wildly. Snakes! Help! There are snakes! Marcus, along with several amused neighbors, stepped outside to watch the chaos unfold. Karen, now completely panicked, grabbed a broom and started whacking at the fake snakes, only to realize they weren't moving. One of her friends, who had come over to help, picked one up and frowned. Karen, these aren't real. Silence. Karen, realizing she had just made a complete fool of herself, turned bright red. She whipped around to see Marcus standing on his porch with his arms crossed. Well, he said, barely hiding his grin. Looks like we both had a little fun, huh? Karen opened her mouth to yell, but then she noticed the neighbors laughing. Some even pulled out their phones, recording the whole thing. Defeated, she stomped inside, slamming the door behind her. The final warning: the next morning, Marcus found an envelope taped to his front door. Inside was a handwritten note. Truce? Marcus chuckled. Karen had finally realized she couldn't win this battle. He grabbed a sticky note, wrote a single word, deal, and taped it to her door. And just like that, peace was restored. From that day on, Karen never trespassed again. In fact, she was downright polite whenever they crossed paths. Marcus could finally enjoy his retirement in peace, knowing that sometimes the best way to deal with a Karen is to out-Karen her. Months passed after the snake incident, and for the first time in a long while, Marcus felt true peace. No more unwanted visitors, no more childish pranks, just him, his pool, and the quiet retirement he had longed for. Karen, on the other hand, had become noticeably reclusive. She barely left her house, avoided eye contact whenever she saw Marcus, and even had her backyard gate double-locked, as if she feared he might return the favor. One afternoon, as Marcus sat on his porch with a glass of iced tea, he saw something unexpected. Karen was struggling to carry a large stack of groceries from her car to her front door. The bags wobbled in her arms, and before she could reach the steps, they all came crashing down. Marcus sighed. He could have ignored it, after everything she had done, but that wasn't who he was. He stood up and walked over. Karen, still crouched on the ground, looked up at him. There was something different in her eyes. No smugness, no entitlement, just embarrassment. You need some help? Marcus asked. For a moment, Karen hesitated. Then, with a deep sigh, she nodded. Together, they gathered the fallen groceries and carried them inside. As Marcus set the last bag on the counter, Karen finally spoke. Look, about everything that happened, she said, shifting uncomfortably. I was out of line. Marcus raised an eyebrow, surprised. Karen continued, rubbing her arm. Guess I just assumed I could do whatever I wanted. I was so used to getting my way that I didn't think about how it affected others. And, well, you put me in my place. Marcus smirked. That I did. She let out a weak chuckle. Guess I had it coming. Marcus studied her for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, you did. A brief silence passed between them before Karen spoke again, her voice softer this time. Thanks for helping me. Marcus shrugged. We're neighbors. Doesn't mean we have to be enemies. Karen exhaled, then extended her hand. Truce. Marcus looked at her hand, then shook it. Truce. And just like that, the war between them was over. Epilogue. It changed Karen? Over the next few months, Karen slowly changed. She stopped treating the neighborhood like her personal playground, started being more respectful to others, and even apologized to some of the neighbors she had previously annoyed. One afternoon, Marcus received an unexpected invitation. Karen was hosting a small backyard barbecue and had invited him. He almost laughed at the irony, but in the end, he decided to go. As he stood in her backyard, enjoying a burger and watching Karen actually interact with people like a decent human being, he couldn't help but smile. Maybe, just maybe, she had learned her lesson. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus truly felt at home.